1, go. Careful. What are you doing? Are you okay?
Hello and welcome to Power Drifting, the Rally Game Podcast. My name is Tom, and this is Bonus Stage, a shorter form episode where one of your hosts waxes lyrical about a game that either the other host hasn't played or a retro gem that we just felt the need to gush or lament about. Your ears and eyes are not deceiving you. This is indeed the first episode we've released in about 5 years, so just a minor hiatus. But fear not, the toolbox has been dusted off, the garage doors opened, and this old jalopy is ready to once again hit the digital dirt roads and take a look at some rally titles that you may have missed, or indeed ones you didn't. If you're wondering where we've been for the last 5 years, and you're probably not, to be honest, there's not really much of a story. Life just got in the way, and we'll have an episode of our service area style podcasts in the very near future to explain what happened again, which isn't a lot. But we're going to introduce some new talent into the virtual cockpit here at Power Drifting. For now, though, it's time to dive straight into the action with a hot new release. Well, it's hot at the time of recording. It's a rally title which has been available for only 48 hours. Let's get acquainted with ViJuDa's follow-up to the excellent Super Woden GP games with Super Woden Rally Edge.
Get ready. Easy left. Easy left. Hard left.
Now, are you sitting comfortably? If so, let's have a little bit of a history on the Super Woden series. The first game, Super Woden GP, was released on Steam in September 2021, and it really appealed to me because it looked like a modern take on something like Neo Drift Out. The camera angle, a sort of 45 degree zoomed out but still overhead view, gave me memories of retro rally games like Power Drive Rally and the previously mentioned Neo Drift Out, but it was more of a track-based racer and had some like Gran Turismo style vibes with the overworld map that allowed you to buy and sell cars and visit different manufacturers, etc. The sequel, Super Woden GP2, was released in November 2023 and was a slightly more refined take on the formula from the original game with some more tracks, more vehicles, and, in my view anyway, better handling of the vehicles that actually encouraged more drifting around corners. It was quite difficult though, so if you've not played that game and you want to jump in and have a go of it, be warned, it can be quite a steep learning curve even. The new addition here though, in Super Woden GP2, was the introduction of rally stages, and I would hazard a guess that that's where the inspiration for a full-on rally-themed Super Woden game came from. So fast forward to now, which is January 2026, and we have Super Woden Rally Edge. Just a quick one on the topic of the name though, Super Woden GP. A few years back, I did ask the lead developer, Victor Justo de Cruz, aka ViJuDa, the origin of the title, and here's what he said. He said, it's a long story. Before making video games, I had a music band which was called Woden. We chose this name when we were teenagers and started in music. We were just deciding what to call ourselves and we googled some random stuff and we liked it. Unfortunately, 15 years later, the band disbanded, but I wanted the name of the group to endure in this way. In fact, some songs from Super Woden GP are adaptations of some songs that we already had, and that's the story. So yeah, thanks to ViJuDa for that. I have seen some discussions on the Steam page for this game as to the origins of the name, so that's the mystery cleared up. Okay, so that's the history lesson out of the way. The main question is, how does Super Woden Rally Edge compare to the two prequels? Well, it would be unfair to directly compare them because they're so different. The first two games, as mentioned, had more of an emphasis on circuit racing against AI competitors, where Rally Edge is an arcade-style take on actual rally racing, as the name suggests, which means a single vehicle on the course against the clock. The camera angle has been changed too, meaning in Rally Edge, the viewpoint is set kind of above and behind the vehicle as opposed to being on a sort of an isometric angle It's more reminiscent of something like Rush Rally Origins than Neo Drift Out, and I think it lends itself well to the style of gameplay, more of which I'll touch on shortly. Now, there are plenty of callbacks to the previous Woden titles here, with a similar kind of overworld map, which contains a garage where you can view or sell your vehicles, and a workshop where you can purchase upgrades to components, wash the cars, perform oil changes to maintain performance. There's a car dealership as well where you can purchase vehicles from a range of fictitious manufacturers, many of which return from previous entries. The manufacturers have names such as Nanwolf, Mylene and Raven, but the flag-based logos and vehicle models, if you use them you can tell what they're meant to be. The car models are actually very recognisable, so you've got things like Minis, BMWs, Seats, Saabs, Subarus and Toyotas. You can edit all the names if you so wish, but I just find it quite nice to be able to use a Raven Mikata rather than a Toyota Celica GT4, but that's just me being weird. In terms of game modes then, Rally Edge features an arcade mode where you can take part in a series of rally stages against an ever-ticking clock, and these routes, as the game refers to them, are split into Route A, which is easy, Route B, which is medium, and Route C, which is hard. It's a pretty simple setup. You choose a vehicle and then race between checkpoints before the timer reaches 0. If you make it to the finish, you move on to the next stage. If the timer reaches 0, it's game over. It's all pretty standard stuff if you've ever played an arcade racer. Now, the main bulk of the time you'll spend with Rally Edge will be in the competitions menu. And from here, you have access to season events, which are time-limited time trial challenges with leaderboards and a prize of credits awarded to the fastest racers over a period that the challenge is live. I did try these and didn't really get very far or anywhere near the top of the leaderboards. There are already some incredibly quick players taking part in these competitions, and the game has only been out a few days at the time of recording, so I clearly need to put more practice in. Another mode here is the time trial, which I'm sure doesn't need much in the way of an explanation. Basically, you pick a course and a vehicle class, which go from D to A. So you've got D, C, B, A, obviously. And then you try to set a record. You're actually limited to which class you can race in by the cars you already have in your garage. So if you only have class D or C cars, you can't race at class B or A, if that makes sense. It might seem a bit arbitrary to limit the vehicles in this way, but it's actually a good incentive to play through the main Rally Edge mode in order to win credits and obviously buy better vehicles. So the main event here is the eponymous Rally Edge mode, which is the game's main championship mode. It follows a fairly formulaic path where you start with a bunch of credits and can only afford a low-powered Class D vehicle. You can then enter a selection of Class D limited competitions and win credits by placing in the top 3 of each task, if you want to call it that. So stars are awarded. So coming third gives you a single star, second awards 2, and first place gives you a maximum of 3 stars. These tasks come in various forms, from like a single rally stage to head-to-head races on a super special stage, and even things like Gymkhana events where you have to get through the little checkpoints in order to do it under the time limit. There's also some multi-stage championships, and these offer prizes in the form of the game's credits currency, and also new vehicles, which can usually just be sold off through the garage to bolster your bank balance. There's also a local multiplayer mode included, but to be honest, I haven't really investigated it very much, so I can't really comment on how it plays. It does have an option for 1 to 4 players, but again, I haven't played it because I've got no friends. Insert sad trombone effect here. According to the Steam page, it is a split screen though, so there's that. But yeah, I haven't actually played it, so I can't comment on it, so I won't. But that's a run through of what you can expect to find or be doing in Super Woden Rally Edge. Now, on to why, in my opinion, this game is a bona fide banger, and that is the gameplay. Now, I know gameplay is such like an antiquated and subjective term, but basically what I mean by that is this. Picking up the game and playing it for the first time, the vehicle handling, it just kind of clicks. Satisfying is probably the right term to use. The way like the vehicles behave on the track, and it's exactly how you'd want or expect a game of Rally Edge's aesthetic to do so. So the controls, like, they're so tight and responsive, and the control you have over the vehicle and the drifting is superb. I think sometimes when you play a racing game and something just feels off about the vehicle controls, but here it's like ViJuDa just knew what players were expecting or what they would expect from this type of game. And I know that sounds really vague, but the best way I can explain this is, with my limited vocabulary, is it just works. This is totally an arcade style experience, and you're encouraged to go around corners sideways, and even the little bits of dialogue on the loading screens explain this. But when the vehicle throttle is massaged, through the use of the analog trigger, it just feels so good. For the record, I use an 8-bit DOE Ultimate controller with my PC, and the controls are just utterly sublime. If you do stray off the defined course onto the sides of the track, onto the grass or the mud or whatever, it will slow you down, as you would imagine, it will hitting the trackside objects like walls and like boulders and the occasional ambulance that's kind of just parked randomly at the side of the track. But it's just really intuitive, and it's easy to correct any mishaps with minimal practice. It just feels really good to play. I can't really put it in any more standard parlance than that. If you play it yourself, you'll understand what I'm trying to get at, but I've probably not done a very good job here, which is, I failed as a podcaster already. So yeah, the courses themselves, they do come in like a range of flavours, if you want to call them that, and they're all based on various locations. So you've got, favourites such as Finland, well, that's my favourite anyway, places like Kenya, France, Greece, Spain, Japan and the USA, and that gives a good range of environments. And you do have a couple of other courses thrown in for events such as like the hill climbs and the Gymkhana, which are kind of set in like weird, like made up cityscapes that all look very nice, I must say. But I'd have liked to have seen like Wales included as a location, just because Wales is a cool location for rally because it's like got forests and mud, which is all you need for a rally, in my opinion. But who knows? Maybe that'll come in an update further down the line.
Easy right. Easy left. Straight ahead. Careful. Moving right.
But the real star of the show with Super Woden Rally Edge is the vehicle handling, and just how much fun it is to drive these rally beasts on the varying terrains on offer. I think it's worth mentioning too that the courses do all feel quite kind of organic. They don't feel like they've been created with an algorithm or something. They're just really, really well designed in my opinion. And because most of them are quite short, you can actually just you can rip through them in a minute and a half, 2 minutes, 3 minutes max. So you can you can get a fix. You could play for 10 minutes and you can get through 4 or 5 different stages. It's really good for quick blasts and getting that gaming adrenaline fix.
Select your route.
Okay, let's move on to some other aspects of Rally Edge. Visuals are decent, and while they do look a little simplistic when compared to something like Assetto Corsa Rally, which obviously is a really unfair comparison to make, the look which the game is going for is different, and everything looks and moves really well. For the record, I'm playing on a PC which contains an RTX 5070 and an i7 12700K, so you'd expect it to run well, but I believe the game runs well on Steam Deck, and the recommended specs are an Intel i5 or an AMD equivalent and a 1060 Ti or an AMD equivalent, which is as per the store page on Steam. A little bit vague on the old AMD equivalents there, but if you're into this kind of thing, I'm sure you know what that means. There are some nice little extras, such as the photo mode, which allows for different visual filters, and a 360-degree free camera for grabbing some nice images of your vehicle. And there's little touches like the VHS-style fast-forward filter if you want to skip the championship celebration screens. Just a nice little touch, which they didn't have to include, but I thought was pretty cool. So the game has lots of courses, it's got loads of cars, several play modes, online leaderboards, and it plays absolutely brilliantly. You'd be forgiven for thinking then that this was the perfect top-down rally title. And to be honest, there's not a lot it doesn't do well. If I had to nitpick anything though, it would probably be the co-driver, who only really has a few different call-outs, so things like easy right, medium left, that sort of thing. The music too is a bit of an acquired taste. It's good, don't get me wrong, but you might want to turn it down or turn down the default volume just a little bit to make the co-driver more audible. Not that the massive arrows that pop up on the screen don't do their job.
Easy left. Long easy right.
So yeah, that's Super Woden Rally Edge. For me, a triumphant return of the Super Woden franchise. And while it's a diversion from the previous entries, I'd have to say it's probably my favourite of the trilogy. And of course, the introductory price of £7.69, or whatever the equivalent is in your part of the world, at the time of this recording, mean it won't break the bank either. Ultimately, if you like rally games, and specifically rally games of the top-down variety, then this is a worthy alternative to games such as Art of Rally or Rush Rally Origins. And at present, as I mentioned, it's only available on Steam, but I would imagine that a console port will be on the horizon, judging from the fact that the other Super Woden games made their way onto like the Xbox and the PlayStation and the Switch. I'm not sure how well a Switch 2 port will go without analog triggers, but you know, time will tell. So yeah, give Rally Edge a go. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Okay, that's enough from me for this episode. We will return soon with more fleshed out looks at some other recent and retro rally games. But for now, thanks for listening, and we'll see you back in the virtual cockpit very soon. Well, sooner than another 5 years, hopefully. For now, goodbye and thanks for listening.